Has Hollywood forgotten how to Hollywood? Well, we're going to talk about that as well as give our final verdict for Doctor Who on today's episode of the Geek Watch podcast.
This is the Geek Watch podcast with Brian Hatcher and Mandy Petrie.
Greetings, Geek Watchers, and welcome to episode 219 of the Geek Watch podcast. I'm Brian Hatcher, and with me, as always, Geek Watch's own resident geek goddess, Mandy Petrie.
Hello, Brian.
So, you're caught up on Doctor Who.
Caught up on Doctor Who.
And we're definitely going to end the show with that because I do want to talk about the season finale, the two-parter, but also some other things about the show. I want to get your ideas about the season in general and what you thought about it. I did want to bring up a few things because I feel like the movie world has gotten weird.
Yeah?
A little more weird.
Okay.
There's been a few things. First of all, and this is all rumor and speculation, although apparently this is a good source, according to John Campea. Apparently, the Russo brothers were interested in coming back and directing the next Avengers film.
Huh.
And we're told, no thanks.
What?
Yeah, I know. Is that not strange? Yeah, I'm not sure why in the world you wouldn't want the Russos back. Now, I understand maybe you want to mix things up a little bit.
Yeah.
But when you've got a proven team like the Russos, and certainly people who know how to direct an Avengers film because they've done a few, that's weird.
Those big ensemble films, they know how to make it work.
Yeah, which I just thought that was odd. But, I mean, there's a lot of weird stuff going over at the House of Mouse. Specifically about the MCU. Apparently, Blade has lost another director. So now we're back to square one there.
Okay.
Because somebody, I forget who it was, somebody had mentioned that during San Diego Comic-Con years ago when they made an announcement of Blade and Shang-Chi and
the Phase 4?
Yeah.
4? Was it Phase 4?
Yeah, I think it was Phase 4.
Phase 4, yeah. All this stuff.
Oh, yeah. And all those films were made and have come out, except for Blade.
Except for Blade.
Everything else, the Marvels, the Eternals, all of that. It's all come out except for this one.
And I think Fantastic Four was announced at the same time as Blade. And it's starting production, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it started.
Oh, yeah. Again, there's a lot of weird things going on at the House of Mouse. They're really playing their cards close to their chest. On the opposite side of this, Paramount has just made an announcement that I'm scratching my head over. They just came out with the new A Quiet Place.
Yes, Quiet Place Day One.
Yes,
Yeah.
which did $53 million. Awesome.
Yeah, and we knew they had good actors in it and everything.
Yeah. So they decided to go ahead and announce that at the end of the month, it's coming out on streaming. So basically what you done...
Killed your box office. I'll just wait.
Yeah, we'll just wait.
Yeah.
It's not even 30 days. And honestly, you have to look at the studio and wonder why... Not only do you kill your box office for a movie that's doing well for you, but now theaters are going to be like, what's your next film that you want us to release that you're about ready to destroy? And we've talked about this before. Paramount's looking to sell. So I don't really understand the motivation of doing this. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But it keeps getting crazier because I just saw a trailer. It came out of nowhere for a Hellboy film called The Crooked Man. I don't recognize the person who's playing Hellboy. This must be a fan film.
Right, yeah.
So somebody's coming out with a fan film, and there's been some really good fan films that have come out, like the Wolverine as a Viking, as a berserker, which that was amazing. So I'm like, oh, some other people are dipping their toe in, and they're doing this fan film of Hellboy. But apparently, no, it isn't. It's an actual movie.
What? It's not animated.
No. And what's weird about this is that it looks like a fan film. Not even fan films look like fan films anymore.
Right.
But this, it really looks like it's a fan film.
Yeah. Everything Everywhere All at Once is a fan film.
Yeah, but
it was damn good.
But yeah, it does look like somebody's doing a student film of Hellboy.
Wow.
And it's mind-boggling to me. And I think, honestly, why I was a little confused by it was because I didn't see a major studio attached to it. It's like a couple of production companies. So I don't know if they've got any kind of a release date or even a distribution. But
Now
yeah,
they keep. I just think that would have been big news.
I would have thought so too until I saw the trailer.
We want to keep this. Oh wait, is it like the Fantastic Four film? They're just trying to keep the. They have to make the movie to keep the rights.
Because it's not a major studio behind it.
Mhm.
It seems like because the last film didn't do so well, maybe they just let the rights lapse and somebody picked it up. I don't know. But I'll have to show you this trailer. It's nuts. It's crazy
Yeah.
how amateurish this thing looks.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
It's, I don't understand. But like again, we're running into a bunch of issues now with it's looking like Paramount Plus wants to merge with Max, which
Okay.
if they decide to do that's going to save me some money, so I don't mind.
Yeah.
I don't mind, but I wonder how the Max/Disney merger is going to look, or is this going to be more of that, more of the same? But it's strange. It seems like Hollywood has lost their minds.
They're just throwing spaghetti at the wall.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's see if this works. We'll see if that works.
Oh, yeah. Well, the other thing, too, is that, and we talked about this before, about how Moana 2 and Wicked were going to open on the same day, Thanksgiving. Wicked decided we don't want to split our audience up, so we're going to move 5 days earlier, which I don't know if that's a far enough distance. If you're worried about having your audience diluted, I don't know if 5 days earlier is going to make that much of a difference. Yeah, you get maybe a little better opening weekend, but then you get the legs cut out from under you the second week. So what's the point of that? But now Wicked is opening on the same day as Gladiator 2.
Oh.
Now, maybe not the same audiences, so maybe that's okay. But I keep seeing these things saying, is this going to be the next Barbieheimer? Is Gladiator 2 and Wicked going to be the next Barbieheimer?
All right.
To which I say, no, no, it's not. And the reason it's not, at least in my opinion.
Wicked-ator.
Yeah, exactly. The Wicked or whatever. But the reason why is because that's not how memes work. That's not how things go viral. You don't get to say what goes viral. I'm sure that Hollywood would love to see this become the next Barbieheimer. But they didn't create the first one. It was the irony and the sarcasm and the joke and the fact that it became a meme and it became viral. That's the reason why it happened. It's not anything you can reproduce. In fact, trying to reproduce it guarantees it won't happen.
Yeah.
In their situation, I would have probably have just kept my mouth shut because the minute you speak it, you're killing it. So if you want it to happen, keep your mouth shut. And if it does happen, hooray, but you can't make it happen. But I will say, to end our little Hollywood journey here, and this surprised me, for many years, Marvel has stayed out of San Diego Comic-Con because they've done D23. They've had their own thing.
Right.
This year, they're coming back.
Really?
They're coming back to Hall H.
Okay.
And they will be coming back about the same time when Deadpool Wolverine comes out. I believe it's coming out the 26th, and Comic-Con's like the 25th through the 28th. So
Right in the middle of it.
I guess the question is, especially with what's been going on with Marvel recently and the concerns with Marvel, apparently they've got a really big announcement and they want to make sure everybody hears it.
Ooh.
What that is, I guess we'll find out.
Besides Wesley Snipes. That's
Yeah. That's the other thing, too. I have avoided every bit of information that comes out on the internet about Deadpool Wolverine. I don't want to know anything. But apparently there's a big wave of, God, let's just let them know all the cool stuff that's going to be in the movie so that we can get them in the theaters. I'm like, guys, you don't need to prime the pump with me. I don't want to know this stuff. And literally anything that says Deadpool Wolverine in the title.
click away.
Yeah,
Not interested.
I am not. I'm sure there may be even geek watchers out there going, but didn't you hear about that? No, I didn't. No, I didn't, because I don't want to know. I want to be surprised. I haven't even watched any of the new trailers. I know there's new trailers that have come out. I'm not even watching them. And so I'm sure that there's been some stuff leaked, but I don't see any of it. I don't want to know any of it. I just want to watch the movie, okay? Just let me watch the movie. So I've been desperate trying to avoid all of that stuff, so I'm just hanging on there. I haven't decided yet whether this is going to call for me to take a drive to Columbus to see it on IMAX. but it's a good possibility that might happen. But we'll find out. Now that you have seen the season finale, let's talk Doctor Who.
Uh-huh.
And we can talk about certain things we didn't talk about last week. Let's start with some review stuff that I didn't really talk about last time, but some really interesting little tidbits that came up during the course of the show. And we'll go back to the Bridgerton episode.
Yeah.
Now, you recall when the doctor got scanned and you saw all the faces of
Yes,
the doctor?
they kept going. Right?
Yeah. Now, did you notice any strange faces?
There was the one woman that was like during...
The renegade doctor.
Renegade
yes.
doctor,
Or the Ruth doctor, yes.
Yeah, I saw her. I don't remember if there was...
If you followed it along, you may have noticed Richard E. Grant's face in the lineup. And that caught me because that's a deep cut.
Okay.
And so my question was, did they just make the Shulka doctor canon? Now, you're looking confused.
Yeah.
Like I said, this is a huge deep cut. Let me
this
tell you
like,
about the
like
Shulka.
one of the movies that they made, or...
Here's what happened.
Okay.
So basically, what happened was during the Great Wasteland, when we didn't have Doctor Who, when Fox tried to make a movie and it...
Paul McGann.
Yeah, and Paul McGann, and that didn't really pan out into a TV show. And so it looked like we weren't ever going to see Doctor Who again. So the BBC decided, why don't we release some episodes of Doctor Who as flash cartoons
Oh,
using flash animation?
all right.
And so they tested the waters for that, and they came out with a series called Scream of the Shulka, which starred the voice talents of Richard E. Grant as the Ninth Doctor, so it was meant to be canon.
Okay.
And so you had a companion. The interior of the TARDIS looked a lot like Paul McGann's TARDIS. So you could tell he was like the one right after Paul McGann. You had the Master as a robot who lived in the TARDIS, which they hadn't explained, but apparently something had happened. And so the Master, in a way, was a prisoner in the TARDIS in a robot's body.
Right.
Not necessarily a foe to the Doctor, but someone who was stuck in there, couldn't leave the TARDIS, and helped the Doctor a little bit,
Okay.
but was very sarcastic when he did so.
Yes, we all need that.
So that was a flash animation, and it was meant to be canon because they figured we're never going to see Doctor Who on television again. Let's try this. And so they released this flash animation, which you can go online and see.
Okay.
And that was going to be their, in a sense, a reboot. But then we did get a new Ninth Doctor, and it wound up on television. And so it looked like this Shulka doctor, is what they called that doctor because the Scream of the Shulka, was not canon anymore because now we have this new Ninth Doctor. But then Richard E. Grant shows up in
On
our
this-
parade of
yeah.
doctors' faces. So now it's...
Rotary of doctors.
Yeah, so now what does that mean? That doctor is a canon doctor, and how does that work? And where does that fit in? That got people talking, obviously, because, again, this was a nod, but are they going to say anything about it anymore? Or is that
Now, in the flash animation, did they make him look like Richard E. Grant?
Yeah.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
he did look like Richard E. Grant. He had a strange kind of a haircut. But yeah, it was obviously Richard E. Grant. Now, of course, now he was the Great Intelligence, and he's been in live Doctor Who. And it was also rather interesting that you were seeing triangles everywhere, which nobody really talked about. And also, the second episode of Doctor Who with the Maestro.
Yes.
There was this scene where the Doctor takes Ruby to the future to show
What
it's like-
life is with no music. Yes.
Yeah. And what was interesting about that scene was I recognized it because this was a scene that played out almost beat for beat in old Doctor Who.
Ooh.
There was an episode of Doctor Who called The Pyramids of Mars,
Ah,
where they
okay.
faced a threat that was so terrible. And Sarah Jane was like, but we should just go ahead and leave if it's so dangerous. It's like, but we can't because this being could wind up destroying the world. She says, but we know it didn't happen because we're from the future.
Yes.
And so the Doctor takes her into the future, into what was for her the present day.
Yeah.
And the place was the Earth was
Wasteland. Yes.
was a complete wasteland, a dead planet circling around a dead sun. But now, of course, we realize it was more than just a nod to an old episode. It was a tip-off that we were going to revisit it, which we did in the season finale, the two-parter. So now that you've seen it, what was your opinion? What did you think?
I was really impressed. It was a good way to show the old Who without doing a flashback. They had it in those screens so that we knew. That's why the film looked different, because it's all on these screens. I think that was really clever the way they did that, and they were able to recall it and show what happened with
Sutek.
Yeah, thank you. It happened with him, and man, his design was really cool. That kind of winged jackal.
Yeah.
They did a good job with that. Yeah, of course I thoroughly enjoyed it. My geek colored glasses, when all seems impossible, and that even the Doctor is scared, and the Avengers, everyone turns to dust.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I would say it's a double Thanos, but it's even worse than that, and we'll get into that. Now, of course, Tom Baker's my doctor, has always been my doctor. My two favorite doctors have always been Tom Baker and whoever's playing it at the moment.
Right.
So, but I remember Pyramids of Mars. And what I remember of it specifically, of course, I think I watched this probably before you were even born. You were probably not even alive when I first saw this. But what I recall of it was the episodes. Of course, this was the old school Doctor Who where you had several
serials.
So, yeah, it was like I think it was a 4-parter. What I found really unsettling in this serial specifically, of course, Tom Baker, if you're familiar with the way he played the Doctor, very jovial, very odd, off the wall. Not a lot of joking in this serial.
Ooh, okay.
The moment he realized who the big bad was, he knew that this was terrible. And basically, Sutek was in prison for the vast majority of the episodes, but still pretty much kicked the Doctor around like a puppy. And could have killed him at any moment, but didn't. Decided not to, which basically worked out in Sutek's favor.
Yeah.
But was basically imprisoned and was trying to free himself. And got the opportunity to do so, and the Doctor tried to stop him, did a sacrifice play in an attempt to stop him, which didn't work, figuring that he was going to die in that situation, and very well could have, although Sutek decided, why don't I just torture you for centuries? And again, keep in mind, this is while Sutek was imprisoned. The whole plot of the show was, if he ever frees himself, that's it, we're done. There's nothing we can do. He'll wipe out the entire universe, and there's no one who can stand in his way. The Doctor does a sacrifice play, figuring he's going to die to stop Sutek. It doesn't work. Sutek turns the Doctor into a puppet, sends him to Mars so that Sutek's minions can destroy what was known as the Eye of Horus on Mars, which would free Sutek on Earth. And as you may recall from the flashbacks, even though he was able to free himself, the Doctor was able to use the time control from the TARDIS to extend the time tunnel that he was coming through into the far future for him to basically
just be trapped in the time tunnel forever.
Exactly. That he would die before he'd ever get to the end of the time tunnel. And in the episode, there was some extra special effects. They had updated the special effects. And the reasons they had done this, and this is, again, if you're not that familiar with what they're doing on iPlayer in Great Britain, they have been doing these little shows called Tales from the TARDIS, where actors from Doctor Who, including people who've played the Doctor in the past, meet up, and they're playing the roles that they had, like the Doctor and a companion. They meet up and they talk about something that they experienced, and you basically get to see the episode. So it's like this frame story. And so they've been showing old episodes of Doctor Who, but you've been...
It's like Campfire.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a campfire story.
Or a clip episode on the old sitcoms.
Yeah, but they've been taking these episodes and they've been updating them as well. So they merge them together into one big episode. And the frame story is great because you have these wonderful warm moments of getting to see Colin Baker with Nicola Bryant. You get to see Peter Davison as the Doctor again. And these all take place in a strange location known as a memory TARDIS. And it's a combination of like all the different TARDISes. And you can go on YouTube and you can watch the framing stories. You can't watch the complete episode itself, but you can watch the framing stories. When Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor goes right into the memory TARDIS, I'm like, oh, so this is canon. So that all became canon. And on iPlayer, they did do a Tales of the TARDIS that was Ncuti Gatwa's and Millie Gibson's talking about the frame story. And then you got to see Pyramids of Mars with the new special effects. So that was on iPlayer. And it is interesting. You talk about sitting around the campfire.
Mm-hmm.
The memory TARDIS does have a campfire.
Oh.
But what's funny about it is the campfire, the little small campfire is Jodie Whittaker's, how her TARDIS had the glowing crystal arches around the center console. There's a miniature version of that, which is the campfire. So they sit in the chairs and the little campfire in the middle there. And then there are like a ton of Easter eggs from the old school Doctor Who. And I will say this to begin with. I know that there were some people that had concerns about the fact that you have this really, because this was in the 70s, mid 70s, that we have this really old villain that a lot of new Who people are just not going to know. You got this big reveal of Sutekh, and those of us who are like, who have seen this, it's like, oh crap, oh crap, oh crap, oh crap. No, this is not good.
Because so many of us were we had bought into that Susan. That's the Doctor's granddaughter. I had bought into it. I was like, it's Susan. They're going to have a fun.
And there was some Susan references in the Peter Capaldi era, toward the end of his era. But yeah, I thought that was a possibility. And there's a possibility we may run into Susan again. Of course, the first Doctor promised that he would come back. So the Doctor promised Susan he would return one day and hasn't yet. There were some people who were concerned, I understand. But for me, it wasn't that big of an issue because everybody has a phone in their hands now and probably had a phone in their hand when they were watching that episode of Doctor Who and could very easily go, Sutekh, what's that? Oh, okay. Since the web in the 90s, we've had what some people refer to as three-dimensional reading because you have hyperlinks where if there's something you don't understand, you can click on it, you can read something. It'll pop up. And so, we don't two-dimensionally read anymore. We three-dimensionally read. And when you got a phone in your hand, if you don't know who Sutekh is, you can pull out your phone and you know. So I knew this was going to be bad because, again, I saw Pyramids of Mars. And the whole premise of that was if Sutekh ever got himself free, there's nothing that can be done. And holy crap, there's Sutekh, and he's free. Oh, we're screwed. But like I said, I enjoyed the episodes. I enjoyed watching them. I enjoyed the callbacks. Again, just like when the 10th Doctor returned as the 14th Doctor, because the 10th Doctor is definitely your doctor.
Yes, he is.
So getting a little extra of him was great. And of course, when I got to see Tom Baker in the 50th and getting to see this ultimate villain from Tom Baker's era was amazing and wonderful and awesome. And
it should be a really good thing for Orthodox Whovians like yourself that would, really.
Oh, yeah.
Especially in America, because Tom Baker was the first Doctor that we ever saw in America when they pulled it over from PBS. That was their first. Yeah. That's what they remember.
Oh, yeah. That was the first Doctor. And eventually they did go back to the third Doctor. Eventually, when they blew through all the Tom Baker's episodes or the ones that were available. Now that we have seen everything, what did you think about this season?
Oh, I loved it. I think they did a great job with each overarching story, did great with it. Each Monster of the Week, I loved them all the little side characters. The old lady who lives upstairs, I wonder if they're going to bring, or if they had meant to bring something back with her. Love Unit. Rose is there, and love everyone there at Unit. The robot, they're so fun, and they could have their own little show. And I'm
the Vlinks.
Yes, I love it, and am excited for more. And Ncuti Gatwa, he's the Doctor. So good.
I have loved his performance. I will say, and as someone who is endeavoring to wear geek-colored glasses more than I do, this is the point where I got to take them off and just be honest about the good and the bad of this season. And although it is true that I have been acting longer than Ncuti Gatwa's been alive, at the same time, he's certainly done a lot more with his acting career than I ever attempted to do with mine, so take this with a grain of salt. But damn, he cries every episode. And I understand why Russell T Davies has said he wants the viewers, especially the young male viewers, to see that
it's okay to be vulnerable.
It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to show your emotions, and I get that. But I also know that the more you cry, the less impact it will have every time you do it. And to my mind, this is a writer's choice, a creator's choice, an artist's choice to make. If you believe that passing on the message that it's okay to be emotional as a male, if that's the most important part of your message, then yeah, that's the route that you go. But you have to understand, like every artistic choice, you make sacrifices when you do that. Every brush stroke that you make, every stroke of the pen is a willing bondage that the artist makes, because every one that you do means that there's one you can't do. But let's be honest, at the end, when Ruby leaves and the doctor cries, if that had been the first time we'd ever seen him cry in the whole series, as an audience, we would have been gutted. But if that's not important, if this message of being vulnerable is the important thing, that's the choice that you make. I'm not going to say he should have trimmed it down, because I may have done that. If I had been in that situation, I might have held that back to make those moments have more punch, to have that as a tool in my toolkit to use sparingly, but to put an emotional punch in where I feel like it needs it. That's a choice I would have made, but it's not the only choice that's available. And as I've gotten older, even though I have gotten more cynical, I've also in some ways have gotten wiser and have realized, I wish sooner, but I have realized that the choices I make as an artist aren't the only ones, and the ones that I make aren't always the best ones.
Oh, like, I guess with what Shooty's doing with it, there are times when he just, all of a sudden he'll break out and scream and in emotion. Like if I'm comparing him to Tenet was always screaming when he was so happy and excited to see something. Clockwork, space clockwork, I love it.
Yeah.
It was only when he got quiet and solemn that you had something to be afraid of.
Oh, yeah.
When the Family of Blood, he was completely calm the entire time when he put him up on that scarecrow. When he locked the little girl in the mirror, he was completely calm, and that's the oncoming storm.
Right.
And each doctor needs to have something of their own, and him being heartbroken when the Black Mirror episode, Bubble and Dot.
It's one of the two. I don't remember them either.
And he knows he can save these people, and they don't want him, and he just lets out that gut wrenching cry. Oh, I could save you, and because all the times that he couldn't save people, and he just had to watch people that he loved burned and die and disappear. And here he has a chance, and they're not taking it. And he's definitely that good. But it is his first season, so I'm willing to give it time to get the rhythm. And the writing's been pretty stellar, and I think we're going to get more. It's hard for me as a Whovian that he doesn't have a signature look, like the fez and the bow tie, or the scarf, the keds, the celery on the
sweater.
Yes, the sweater, the patchwork jacket. It's fun with the costume changes, so I'm having a hard time with that. It's like, what am I going to put on the Build-A-Bear for a Shooty God with Build-A-Bear? And so that would be, if I did have a complaint, that's it. Pretty nitpicky, pretty shallow.
Yeah. I guess it's time for me to start doing my nitpicks. I do understand how some people are upset that this is being called season 1. A lot of people I know online are calling it season 14 because they're like, this is confusing, especially if you have a reaction channel. If you're doing season 1's episode 1, I've already done Rose, which was season 1, episode 1. So that's going to be confusing. And this is a pain that any of us who've ever bought comic books has felt. When they decided they're going to start renumbering the comics back to 1. This is an old pain. It's a classic pain. We've definitely been through it. It's also a pain that we only got 9 episodes. I understand that this is the way things are now. In Disney, I think the new series, The Acolyte, Star Wars, is only getting 9 episodes. That's the way things happen. There is a lot in this season I would have loved to have seen get some distance and be allowed to breathe a little bit, because there were a lot of mystery boxes in this season.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of them I would have liked expanded. You know, it is what it is. And Disney, they're paying for it, so they get what they want.
Yep.
For the most part.
And if they find this is their magical number, we'll see how it works for a while.
Yeah, we'll see how all of that works. And certainly with the way Disney is now, they're getting a little bit stingy, even though they've thrown a lot of money, obviously, at Doctor Who. You can definitely tell they spent some money. Now,
the bottle episode, we're not going to move the entire time, but the special effects are going to be stellar.
Oh, yeah. So about the season, definitely it's had its highlights. 73 yards was awesome. I loved that. I loved Dot and Bubble. Although, like I said before, it is white people talking to white people
Yeah.
about racism, but it's a talking to that needs to happen every once in a while. And there are great moments in the series all the way through that I have enjoyed. And yeah, I feel like it went by way too quickly. I wish there'd have been more episodes. I wish certain things had been expanded. And then, of course, I didn't have the issue that some people had with Sutek being an old villain. Like I said before, people have their phones in their hands, they can look it up. But also, you want to show Disney that this is a deep IP. You want to show that there's a lot of stuff you can do with this, because they're talking about the Whoniverse at this point.
Yeah.
And they want to show Disney, hey, just like Star Wars, there's a lot of different things you can do in this world.
Torchwood, units.
The war between the land and the sea. Have you heard about this?
No.
This is a Doctor Who spinoff that's coming.
What?
And it's going to be starring Martha Jones. She's coming back.
Oh, well, Mickey needs to come back too.
Oh, but he's not gonna.
Oh.
Because, well, since you brought it up, I'm going to have to bring it up. Noel Clarke ain't coming back to Doctor Who.
Oh, okay.
Noel Clarke ain't coming back to nothing.
Oh.
You remember Jonathan Majors?
Oh.
And why he's not coming back to Kane?
Man.
Yeah. Noel Clarke is not coming back to Mickey.
Oh.
So, yeah. I'm sure they'll have to explain that somehow.
Maybe we'll get Tom Ellis back.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, and after they get, she and Mickey get divorced, and she goes back to Tom Ellis. He was Tom Milligan in the show.
Yeah,
but
and the thing about it too is like some people might go, but wasn't he killed? Yes, but after the Master was defeated, it rewound.
And he was alive again.
So
she came on with her ring. Yes.
Yep. So yeah, you can definitely bring him back. Now, what's interesting about this is that it's involving the Silurians.
The lizard people.
Yeah, the Sea Devils mostly. But whether it's the Sea Devils or the different versions we've seen in Old Who and even in New Who, of course,
right.
The Silurians have always been an Achilles heel for the Doctor because very often, and different versions of the Doctor have had to deal with this situation. John Pertwee's third Doctor and Peter Davison's fifth Doctor, and of course the 11th Doctor. Every time he's had to deal with the Silurians, he's managed to broker a peace and then the humans screw it up.
Right, yes.
So as much as he's wanted...
I mean, they are terrestrial. They have every right to this world as we do. So.
Exactly. So as many times as he's tried to patch things up, it's never worked out. So maybe Martha will have a better shot at it.
Yeah, more diplomatic.
Yeah. If you're Bad Wolf, if you're the BBC, you want Disney, first of all, to go, hey, there's a bunch of new stuff that you can make shows out of, and it's going to be great. And also, there's a lot of the old shows that are sitting on BritBox right now, and nothing wrong with BritBox. But maybe, Disney, it might be worth your while to buy licenses and put Old Who.
Yes.
You've got decades worth of Old Who that you
so much content.
So much content that you can put out there. Certainly they want to encourage that, especially with, as we've talked about in this episode of the Geek Watch podcast, Disney's acting weird and they're cutting corners right now. And so things have to do really well, which is why I got to say the 2-part season finale, I don't feel like it stuck the landing ultimately for me. I feel like there's a lot of questions that didn't get answered. 9 episodes aren't going to allow you a whole lot of room to do that, admittedly. And I could definitely tell from these 2 episodes, there were parts of the script that Davies loved to write, and there were parts of it he really didn't like it that much. The one-on-one, the personal, emotional parts, they hit. They absolutely did. But you could definitely tell once Sutek wasn't important anymore, he was Deus Ex Machina into the time corridor. And how this fixed everything, well, they didn't really explain it. I have a feeling that the idea was, hey, the audience is going to want everybody back and alive, so they're not going to care. As long as we give that to them, they'll go, okay, fine. We don't care how it happened. Admittedly, when Kate died, a lot of people got stressed out. I got stressed out, but once the entire universe was destroyed, it killed all the tension because they can't let that stand. There's no way. And you mentioned the snap in the MCU.
Yes.
We saw half the universe get dusted.
Yes.
And then we spent a year, they gave us a year to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then after a year, the snap became the blip and people got brought back. The snap happened 6 years ago. When they came back and it was turned into the blip was 5 years ago. But even to this day, that event has affected.
Right. Yep.
Now, the entire universe on several different timelines was just wiped out. And they were brought back, but there was this idea that, and Kate mentioned it, it's like that there's this memory of it happening. So everyone in the universe remembers that they died and were brought back.
Yeah.
That has to affect you in some way, existentially. The Daleks, they name check the Daleks.
Yep.
Imagine
Sorrow.
the Daleks they were wiped out and brought back.
They were exterminated.
They were xenophobic and hate all life before. How's that going to affect them now? That should affect them some way, right? But if we just pretend like this didn't happen, like what happened with the Flux, where they wiped out big chunks of the universe, which didn't come back, but now we're just pretending like it didn't happen. But why these type of things concern me is because I know that Disney is real flaky right now with their projects. I want the writing in Doctor Who to be really good and for the shows to do well, because would Disney just decide not to do Doctor Who anymore if they don't feel like they're getting the return that they want from it? Absolutely they will. They're cutting things left and right. They've said that they've canceled projects just in the MCU. They've not made any announcements for, but I want to see Doctor Who continue. I want to see it go on, but I feel like the writing right now, although it's good, I don't think it is where it needs to be for it to continue on Disney Plus. That's just the way I feel about it. I think Russell T Davies absolutely can rise to the occasion. But if you get to a place where you realize things will not have consequences, or there's things that aren't going to get explained, you're going to lose audience. And I don't want to see that happen. I want to see Doctor Who do extremely well, especially with what we're seeing now with Doctor Who. And Ncuti Gatwa, I think he's going to be an amazing doctor. He's an amazing actor. But I also know from Jodie Whittaker, her time as the Doctor, that you can be an amazing actor. And Jodie Whittaker is an amazing actor, but if the scripts aren't there, it's just not going to work. I know they're working hard on the next season. I wish there were more episodes, but Disney makes those decisions. I hope that things get expanded. I am a little bit worried about the Christmas episode because the descriptions that we're getting from Stephen Moffat is it's going to be absolutely crazy. It's going to be off the chain, which has me excited and worried because there are two ways that can go. It could be good crazy. It could be bad crazy. And the last thing we want is bad crazy. If it's out there weird and, ultimately doesn't make any sense, that's
Doctor Who.
But I've seen Doctor Who be really good. This season I've seen Doctor Who be really good. I know it's within Russell T Davies to write good episodes, and he has. I want to see more of them, but I guess we will see.
We shall see.
And with that said, we come to the end of episode 219. Thank you for listening, and tune in next time for the latest in geek news and views with the Geek Watch podcast. For Mandy Petrie, this is Brian Hatcher, reminding all the Geek Watchers out there, we're all geeky about something. Be proud of yours. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Geek Watch podcast. If you enjoyed this program, don't forget to like and subscribe on your preferred platform and share this podcast on your social media. For links to all the ways you can listen to the Geek Watch podcast, as well as leave comments and suggestions, visit our website at geekwatch.net. The Geek Watch podcast is a Hanging J production.